All right, football fans, welcome to a Friday episode of the Call Sheet Daily Podcast. I'm your host here, head coach Kevin Smith, Ocean City High School, and we are 6 days from the NFL draft. And the NFL draft process is the culmination of a long period that really begins for these guys in high school. You got to get to the next level first in order to obviously be chosen in the NFL draft. And in order to get to the next level, you have to get recruited. And I'm going to talk about that on today's show. And I have a great guest, head football coach at State College High School in Pennsylvania, Matt Lintal. Welcome to the program, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you jumped on. Matt was referred to me by a mutual friend of ours, Nick Dinsmore, who grew up with Matt, and said, "Hey, I got a coach I think would be a great guest for the show." And Matt and I started to talk, and he mentioned that he had 31 seniors in his program, and that 9 or 10 of those guys are going to go play at the next level. So we decided, hey, let's build a show around recruiting. I wanted to get to that, but before we get to that, Matt, let's talk about your background. You have a hell of a coaching resume. You've been the coach of the year in the state of Pennsylvania, a championship winning coach, got over 100 wins already. You're the president of the Pennsylvania Scholastic Football Coaches Association. Tell us about your background, Matt.
No, again, thanks for having me. And I think it all starts back with Jim Dinsmore, Nick's dad, as my first coach in junior high up in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, small town up in north central PA. And, growing up around the game and on the sidelines, my dad was a football coach my whole life. I had the opportunity to play for him in high school. And so we moved from Wellsboro to State College, and my dad took over my junior year. Had a great experience, absolutely just fell in love with the game, and not just the game for what it is, but for what it is beyond, the wins and losses, and getting to see the impact. My dad was a school counselor and football coach at State College, and I'm a school counselor, football coach at State College, and it was kind of a roundabout path to get there. But graduated from State College High School, went on to Franklin and Marshall College, big rivals of your alma mater of Gettysburg.
That's right.
And so played for another phenomenal coach there, and Tom Gilberg, legendary man and coach, Division III, Franklin and Marshall, and just absolutely loved my experience, and just reiterated my passion for this game and what it can do in people's lives. And so I wanted to get into coaching upon graduating. So I went to Bucknell University, was a restricted earnings coach my first year, making $4,000, working 80, 90-hour weeks, and loving every second of it, just soaking up as much football as I possibly could. So I was able to kind of work my way up through the ranks at Bucknell, became the pass game coordinator and quarterback coach, coached every offensive skill position in my time there. And then, our head coach took a new job as a coordinator. And so the new staff came in and everybody got let go. We had a 6-month-old at the time, so it was kind of shift gears, jump back into something a little bit more, with a little bit more job security and stability to stay local. So moved back home and was able to work my way in as an assistant coach and the school counselor here at State College. And then after being an assistant for 3 years, took over as the head coach, where I've been now just finishing my 11th year as the head coach at State College High School. So loving every second of it, and just blessed to be raising our family in this community.
Yeah, great journey. I love that phrase you used, restricted earnings coach. That tells you all you need to know about your lifestyle, what it's going to be like.
So, yeah, no benefits, barely getting food on the table. So taking advantage of every meal that you got on the road trips and recruiting weekends and whatnot, and just trying to stack your pockets full when you left that night.
Yeah, love of the game, coach. Love of the game.
Yep, no question.
So hey, what you're coaching at State College High School in State College, Pennsylvania. What's it like coaching football in that town, man? That's just a rabid college football town. It must be an exciting football environment.
So it's awesome. There's obviously it's a phenomenal environment. The pros and the cons. You know you're never the biggest show in town. That's Penn State on Saturdays, and obviously it's a different world. But the support that we have here is tremendous. Our stadium actually sits just off of one of the main drives through State College, and so it's not at our high school. Our stadium is kind of dug down in, and I think it's the most beautiful stadium that at the high school level in the state of Pennsylvania. So it's absolutely gorgeous. Friday nights are really special there, and it's not just special because of our team on the field, but we've got a band that makes up probably 250 to 300 kids per year. We've got phenomenal cheerleaders, the fan support of our student body, and then the community coming out to support as well. And it's just an unbelievable venue. That's really highlighted on those nights where Penn State is home the next day as well, and town has just got a buzz to it. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of different guests that have joined us on the sidelines, because of the Penn State connection. So Chris Fowler comes every time he's in town. He actually went to middle school and State College, so he's really befriended our program and shown a lot of support. And obviously, Coach Franklin comes when he can, and we had Coach Larry Johnson, who's out at Ohio State as the defensive line coach, who I played with his boys when I was in high school here. And also Matt Rule, who is a State College alum and the current head coach at Nebraska, who when he was at Temple, he came and kind of helped us out with the pregame speech, and I can't replicate his enthusiasm and just everything he brings to the game. But we're very blessed to be in a tremendous area with a ton of support.
It really sounds like a phenomenal environment and experience. You've built a heck of a program there. You guys have won several sectional championships. You've been the coach of the year in the state of Pennsylvania. And you mentioned to me this past year you had 31 seniors. So some teams in our area, man, they're lucky if they've got 35, 40 kids total in their program, much less seniors. You got 9 or 10 of those kids that are heading off to play in college. Let's talk about that process, that recruiting process. Where does it start for those young men?
Yeah, I think it starts earlier and earlier, and I think that's one of those things that has changed. But I think as we talk about it as a staff, and kind of putting that out to kids, like the first and foremost thing is your grades. To be a recruitable athlete, focusing on those grades early are really, really critical. So we've been fortunate. We've had 84 kids in my 11 years that have committed to play college football, 41 of them to Division I programs, FCS or above. Within that, I kind of looked at the data and calculated the average GPA of those kids going to Division I programs is about a 3.75. Which is crazy. So like I know everyone's looking at film and assessing talent, but if you're not a 5-star slam dunk, those grades are hugely important. So that's really the start of that for us. Me, from my years of coaching experience, collegiately, I keep in touch with a lot of the guys that I worked with. So having and maintaining those relationships as kind of helping me out with the evaluation process of my own kids, because I know there's a bias. I love the kids I coach. I will advocate for them. I won't ever lie for them. So when it says 6'1" on the sheet, he's 6'1". When it says 220, he's 220. But building those relationships with the college coaches as a high school coach, I think is very critical. And evaluating, they all want to know, who do you think can play at our level? So giving that honest, open feedback as to what my evaluation is for the kids. And I think that, throughout the years, the college coaches that come and recruit here have a great level of trust for the things that I'm giving them and what I'm saying about our kids and who they are as people. And so a lot of the the non-local schools, it happens more by spreadsheet, and so a lot of I have a spreadsheet that has all the contact information of our kids, links to their academic records, links to their huddle accounts, their NCAA eligibility number, heights, weights, some notes. Like did their dad play college football, or are they a multi-sport kid? What's their track times? Just trying to put as much information down so that the college coaches have that stuff, as they start that recruiting process. So, and I think the most important thing is I put a ranking of each and every one of our guys. Is he a 1A star? Is he a 1A kid? Is he an FCS level kid? D2, D3, junior college kid, and I kind of send that out to hundreds of coaches. Try to hit every coach that I possibly can, knowing that some aren't ever going to open it. And I think that is a challenge as the technology age has made things easier. It's also made it harder to kind of navigate that on the coach's end as well. So back when I was at Bucknell, we got buckets of DVDs every day for our recruiting area, and you'd get 60 or 70 films to eval. So you had about 3 clips that you could watch of each kid. And so I really make sure that our kids are putting their best highlights first. Highlight films don't need to be long, but they need to be really progressive, and that your best stuff is right there at the beginning and showing multiple skill sets. And so I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that our kids are set and really putting their best foot forward with that.
It's incredible how technology has changed this process. I'm
Mm.
older than you. When I was getting recruited, we literally were mailing VHS tapes of our
Yep.
games to recruiters. You just mentioned DVDs at Penn State, and now we're obviously into the huddle era. Kids are being encouraged very early on to build a social media profile so that they can share their best stuff. They're not even restricting it to your huddle tapes. I mean, there's kids now putting stuff up that show them in the weight room, going through workouts with personal trainers, participating in other sports. I remember reading about Mike Gesicki, the tight end now for the Bengals. He's a New Jersey guy, Southern high school. His huddle tape for college recruiters, and he's a Penn State guy, started with like 2 minutes of him playing volleyball.
Yeah.
Just spiking the hell out of the ball, because he wanted to highlight his athleticism. It is interesting how much now plays into the process, but the process has changed a lot. You've been a head coach for 11 years. I just stepped down as a head coach after 14 years. What's changed throughout this recruiting process over the time that you've been a head coach?
I think, when I think back to my early years, everything was kind of going good, going smooth. I had it figured out. Then COVID hit. And that was really the start of a whole new era of recruiting. And it has never settled down since. You thought it would. You thought you would work through those things, but it really hasn't. It's just continued to evolve yearly, monthly, daily, and it's tough to stay on top of it from a high school coach's perspective, to be following all the litigation that's going on and things. It's just nonstop. But, you go back to COVID and here you are as a high school coach trying to get kids into their next phase of life and provide them with an opportunity. And then the NCAA says, hey, every kid gets an extra year of eligibility. That year didn't count. And so now there's no roster spots, so they can hold on to those 5th year seniors at every school. So it's just a major, major hiccup. And so then it's like, well, it's not just 1 year. That goes for every kid that was in college, so that plays out through the next 4 years, sometimes 5, and then wrestling sometimes 7 or 8. Like it's with the Olympic years and things like that, they've it's just extended that extra eligibility. And then you jump into the transfer portal. They throw that into the mix. So now where when it was just COVID, it was like, okay, it's just the guys on the roster. They get an extra year. Once this plays out, everything will be fine. Now you go to transfer portal, and now it's, well, now colleges aren't just recruiting high school kids; they're recruiting college players off of other teams. So from levels above them and below them. So if you're a D1 program, you may be like a mid tier. You may be looking at guys that are falling off of the Power Four groups. That may not be getting the playing time or the star treatment that they want, and so they're trying to snag them up. Or maybe it's a D2 kid that has absolutely lit it up in their league, or an FCS kid, and now you're going to take a chance with him and get him to come up, and so then they throw on the NIL money, and another change into the mix, and so that's continued to evolve, and again, you think it's going to settle and kind of settle into things and kind of play out, and then they throw this 105 roster limit into the mix as well. And I know that that's still in litigation as to what that's exactly going to do, but a lot of the teams, with the transfer portal just opening up, a lot of the teams are trying to do the best thing for their guys and for their teams, and so they don't want to hold on to those guys and give them false hopes, so they're starting to let them go. And so I think, you take Penn State or Nebraska and some of these major programs, and there's 130, 140 kids on the team, that you have to get down to 105. So now you've just inundated the transfer portal, and there's not enough homes for all these kids. And in all these decisions that have been made by the NCAA, the the unintended negative consequence in all of them is high school kids.
Yeah.
They are the shrapnel that they're taking every piece of it, and I feel terrible for these kids, and as a part of our coaching association for the state, it's universal. It's like we're all experiencing this as head high school coaches, what these kids are going through and how difficult this process has become. Were kids who were clear Division One, maybe lower level Division One kids in the past, now they're right on the border of the FCS level or D2 level. And it has really pushed, kind of that pendulum back a long ways, and so where it's going to go, I don't know. Is it all good for college football? I don't know. I tend to be more of a traditional guy when I look at it, where kids make a commitment, and they find a way to make it work, and they work hard if it's not working out the way it's supposed to. But the whole picking up and going, from an educator standpoint as well, I just cringe. Where a kid can go, maybe take 2 years at a school, and then go and do a semester and a half at another one, and then another half a semester at a third school, and say that they have a college degree. I just think about the gaps that are in that curriculum of it's just not going to be what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I worry about that piece, and I worry about just kind of the what it means to be a college athlete, and where does your true focus need to be, for not just 4 years, but for the next 40. Because I think that's a big thing that's getting lost in the shuffle right now.
It is a evolving landscape, and it's getting harder and harder as a high school coach to advise these young men about what to do. I remember being told by a college recruiter, hey, this 18-year-old has never left home before. He's in a structured environment all the time where people are doing things for him. I don't know how he's going to be when he goes away from home. I don't know how he's going to react to a new environment. Can he handle a new playbook? So I could recruit him, or I could grab a 21-year-old kid who's already been through those things and can give me a really good reason for why he wants to transfer, and can go through my playbook and understand all the concepts already. So I'm going to take that kid. And especially
Mhm.
when these coaches are under pressure to win now, grabbing the more known quantity over the unknown is very tempting for them. And so you can understand it from their perspective. But as you laid out eloquently just then, the bigger picture considerations for younger kids are tricky. And it seems to be especially tough at the quarterback position. Right? What is that just a numbers game? Why is recruiting quarterbacks now become so difficult?
I think a lot has changed with the quarterback position. I even think back to my time at Bucknell and recruiting quarterbacks, and that was a time where everybody wanted the high elbow and guy that had a really high release and quick motion. But now that position has evolved, and what we're asking of that position has evolved. It's not just you know hand it off or sit back in the pocket and throw. Now you're looking at dual threat guys. You're looking at guys that have a real quick release for RPO. And guys that can throw from multiple arm angles, multiple, off platform positions. And, I think the Patrick Mahomes effect has trickled down to every level. But quarterbacks, there's so much that rides in that position that I think as you look at it from a college coach perspective, like if that's the guy that is going to feed my family, I got to be right. I can't miss on him. If we're going to win games, it's because of this position, and so all those guys want to see those kids throw in person. And there's only so many times and opportunities where you actually get that chance to see a kid throw in person, especially in a competitive environment. Those times are extremely limited. So I think there's so much that goes into that spot in particular, and because it's a singleton position, you get how many can you roster throughout a college program. You're not going to keep 5 or 6 kids happy anymore, that are there taking scout team reps and could be going and playing somewhere else. So now those roster numbers of uh, uh, of potential starting quarterbacks on a given team have gone from 4 or 5, spread out over 4 or 5 years, to now you're looking at 2 to 3 that are really like those guys that are going to be in the starting mix and getting legitimate reps in practice. And sometimes, they're looking for the starting quarterback off of another football team. So a guy at a lower level or whatever that has been a proven commodity. And we've seen a lot of that, obviously, with Ohio State and Will Howard this year, taking a quarterback off another team. And the list goes on with Joe Burrow and the success that different guys have had in just one year, going and popping over to another team. So there's a lot of variables, especially with that position.
So I'll get you out of here on this, Coach. There's so much to talk about as far as this goes. But what do you tell players who are struggling to attract a lot of attention from the next level? How do you advise them as to how to proceed? Because there are guys who can get lost in the shuffle. Is it a thing where there are actions they can take to raise their profile, or do they have to sometimes, maybe if your sights are set on playing at a Division I school, do you have to delicately suggest that, hey, maybe we need to look at some other options because there's great football out there at every single level? Only about 6% of kids who are on high school rosters ever even make it to any level in college football. So how do you encourage that kid?
Well, first off, I always tell kids, if you don't love football enough to play Division III football, then you don't love it enough to play Division I football. I don't care what level you're at, but you better love this game, because when you leave high school, it's work. And if you don't love it, it's going to be a grind, and you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be miserable. And so you have to love this game to play it. It can't be about the extrinsic rewards that can potentially come with it. You have to love this game. And so, but in terms of the kids on my roster, what do I tell them? Again, I go back to grades as first and foremost, as the importance. College coaches, you become a lot more marketable to a lot more schools the higher your grades are. As your grades go down, the amount of schools that can recruit you goes down. So keeping as many doors open as possible, I think, with your grades is really critical. Then, I've already talked about the film, the critical piece of actual game film. College coaches look at transcripts, they look at huddle film, and they want to see your best clips. They're only going to be able to watch a few clips. If they don't like what they see, you're out. And so making sure that stuff is there and there early and there often. The other big thing is camps. I always tell kids, like, make sure you can't go to 10, 15 camps. Like, you're going to be worn out. You're going to run bad times, and it's going to be a detriment to you, not only for your performance, but also for the coming season. That is of the utmost importance as well. So, try to find one or two dream schools, the schools that you have grown up wanting to be at. And I don't want to say you can't play there. So go take your chance, shoot your shot and take a chance, go. It may be that school that falls in love with you that day, or it may be another school that's there in observing their camp as well. So take your shot, pick one or two of those schools. And then I would say find one or two of the other schools that, are right there in the mix, where I'm kind of recommending that your level of football is appropriate to. And it's appropriate fit for you academically as well. So one or two, really two or three, it may be in that area, depending on, some how far away they are or how spaced out the camps are. And then I would say find one or two kind of safety schools, and it may not be like a safety school in the sense of like it's a easy school to get into or whatnot, but maybe it's a lower level than what you're dreaming of playing at or hoping to be playing at. But as I said, that pendulum has shifted, and the talent level has been pushed down, where there's a lot of Division I football players that are from the past era that are now playing Division II football. So being open-minded to that. And I think that letting kids know that there's more than one right answer when it comes to which college is best for them is critically important. As a school counselor and a football coach, talking with kids about, like, they go through their whole life knowing exactly where they're going to be next year. And now you enter that point of like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. And they put so much pressure on themselves to find the right school. And there's so many right schools. There's very few bad options. So it's finding that best fit for you, based on relationships, based on location, based on major. But there's more than one right answer. And then a lot of a big piece that I always talk about is like, focus on the process, and the outcome is going to take care of itself. Like, there's going to be opportunities at the end of the day, but don't miss out on the opportunity to play what I think is the best game ever, on Friday nights in front of your hometown with the kids you grew up with, and be out there playing football on Friday nights. So be where your feet are, be present, and enjoy that. Don't be so focused on, I got to make this highlight film. I gotta get this sack or this touchdown, and or I'm not going to get this offer. Like, just go be there, be a great teammate, be a great person, be a great student, be a great friend, and really enjoy and make the memories and the relationships that are going to carry you on for the rest of your life. And I think if kids are living their life the right way, the football is going to take care of itself. And I've been fortunate to be able to help a lot of kids through that process. And it's always stressful. It's always extremely stressful for them, because it's their first time through it. But at the end of the day, it does always work out. If a kid loves the game enough to want to go play, they're going to find a home. And it may not be exactly what they dreamed of, but dreams can change, and you can go make the most of any opportunity that you're given. And if you love this game enough, then you're going to find a home.
That's great advice, Coach. That's great advice. Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. Interesting discussion. I'd love to have you back. I want to talk a little about your sprint out passing game as well. You were mentioning that the other day. So maybe we'll do a Whiteboard Wednesday segment one day where we dive into the X's and O's there.
That'd be great, Kevin. I'd love to be back.
Yeah. So excellent. Best of luck with continued success up there in State College. Phenomenal environment. You've built a heck of a program. So again, man, thanks for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. Great meeting you, and best of luck with your podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so for Coach Matt Lintal, this is Kevin Smith. We are wrapping up this week's shows, and then next week we're into the draft. That's pretty exciting. So the young men that Matt and I are talking about today, their process a couple years down the road for those who are obviously the best of the group, wind up with them realizing a lifelong dream, NFL draft. That's always an exciting week. So we'll focus on that on next week's show. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.